watching the Bethel College Football Show.
Shire in at QB, throws the outlet. It's jumped by Trey Palmer. He's going to take it for a pick six. Touchdown, Bethel. He catches it in midfield. Braden Francis from 91 yards from Zach Esau.
Now here's your host, Dan Page, with football coach Terry Harrison.
Welcome to this week's Thresher Football Show. Dan Page alongside head coach Terry Harrison for this week's show as we talk about the Threshers, who are now 1-0 on the season, 1-0 in conference play after a victory at McPherson 24-0 on a Thursday night that went into an early Friday morning, and talk about an interesting season opener for the Threshers. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute, and really just excited for week 2 coming up as the Threshers play their first home game of the year against the Friends University Falcons, and should be interesting, hopefully better weather than last year's game we always talk about, because it was just the absolute worst. And then coming back and then having to play a lightning delay game this week, it was just nuts. So never a dull moment in Thresher football. I'm sure Coach Harrison sees it on a daily basis. But Coach, everybody's probably thinking, and I'm sure they've asked you these questions already, but 3 or 4 lightning delays, you've dealt with that in the high school ranks, but how is this moment different?
It by far the longest lightning delay I've ever been a part of, and so it was bizarre, and one of those deals that, man, when you look at it, I don't think anyone will remember the score of that game in the next 20 years like our guys, but they'll definitely remember laying on concrete for 3.5 hours, in a very small locker room, and which is outside of McPherson's control. But definitely, man, what a long, crazy night. So proud. Man, we had so many parents and fans stay. I think we outlasted McPherson's home crowd, which is really cool to see. And then, obviously, very proud of our guys and our staff how they handled that, because man, there were some parts of it that they just weren't fun, and sitting and waiting and that long delay. And I thought our guys, when you have a mature group that's been through, all the things our team has been through, I think it made it a little easier for us.
Absolutely, and definitely want to say appreciation to the folks that wished encouragement during that time. You guys ate up all your resources that you brought with you, bananas, granola bars, you name it, but water, everything gone. Yep. I think that was after the first delay. Yep. But Tony Hoops, our athletic director here, and then Colin Lautensock, our new assistant athletic director of communications, did a great job. They went and got some more stuff, kept the guys keep going. It was just like a party for you guys. It seemed that way. Maybe it's one-sided, but I don't know. That was just kind of my feelings of it and everything. But your guys, they knew exactly what to do, which what I was most impressed about is because they just kind of took the circumstances and just rolled with it. Yes, you just sit there, you don't waste energy, you went goofing around or anything, but when you get out on the field, it's go time.
Yeah, we challenged our guys to, the way we put it was just to win the lightning delay, right? So there was a game that we were playing in the lightning days to win every lightning delay, and I thought they did a good job of that, because it can create anxiety if you're just sitting and waiting, and then you're always counting it down. Our guys would just say, get off your feet. A lot of our guys took their pads off. There was guys laying down, guys sitting down, but trying to relax as much as possible and not just stand and pace. And, it seems like such a small thing, but when you think about being a player in that environment, it's very easy to kind of burn up unnecessary energy. And so they did that. It was actually really fun. I was walking around, I know our staff was sitting around and talking to different guys. And as funny as it is, we tried to almost take our focus off of the actual game. And we were talking about, just stories remembered from the last couple of years. And I know I talked to a lot of our seniors about, this path we've taken to get here. And it was really fun to, there was nothing else to do, right, except for talk about some of that stuff. So that was really good. And then obviously as a couple minutes out of each time coming back, those guys refocused. they kind of got their minds ready to roll. And I think that showed because honestly, some of our best football was played coming out of East Delay. And I think that's because of the way we handled it. So I was really proud of that.
Absolutely, and I mean that's something that it's really hard to even coach or teach at any level. So definitely was impressed with that. Just handling those circumstances. You guys brought the energy even when it was like 1 a.m. out there. It was fun to see, and in those practices where you guys practiced late into the night because of the heat, I think they kind of paid off to some degree within that. I mean, they were more used to being up that late, things like that, and so it was really, really fun. So I got home at probably a little after 2 a.m. I'm sure you a little bit later, Coach, but never a dull moment. But the Threshers get the victory. That's the most important thing. The first score came in the first quarter where we kicked a field goal. Logan DeMond was money on that one, and that's a great way for him to start the season. And 2 years removed now from Special Teams Player of the Year in the conference, really good. And then you get this first touchdown where Landon Barnes Coach, you know more about this play than I did. He just willed himself into the end zone, but he got a little help.
Yeah, that's kind of the deal, right? And at first, talking about Logan, what people don't know is, and it can happen when you're a specialist the way he is. Ryan Gregg, Braden's one of our specialists, but Logan as well, and that crew together. You can almost lose sight of some of the adversity those guys face, but Logan battled a bunch of injuries last year. So he was a freshman Special Teams Player of the Year and then just had a bunch of injuries. And so, man, he did a great job last year, but struggled at times dealing with those injuries. And, most people don't even know that he was going through that. And so to see him come back, and he was 1 for 1 on field goals, 3 for 3 on PATs, just really proud of him and that whole group. Ryan and Braden, those guys put so much extra time in outside of all the other time we put in their normal positions. And so, man, really proud of him. But no, Landon done, people that have been around our program a long time have seen Landon make plays. Every game he's played in, he has scored touchdowns. Like you talked about, just kind of plays with this refusal to lose and this like you talked about, his will to score and make big plays. And that play was kind of a little bit of a busted play. There was a kind of a weird scenario on the front side of that play, and he bent it back, and that backside did a really good job blocking. And so it was fun to see him kind of get in a groove. That was his second full game as a college starter that he's played in. He's been a role player in some other games, but it was fun to see him play. And I think that play, for people that are new to our program or maybe people that don't remember, that's kind of his style. Yeah. And I think it's a different dynamic than we've had in the past, but it makes us really tough to defend. So it was fun to kind of see that and know that's what Landon's done, and he's very consistent in that regard. So he's a playmaker, and it was fun to see that for sure.
Draven Johnson throwing that block, he did a great job. That's kind of just sealed it, and the rest Landon would not be short of the end zone. It was a great play altogether. And Coach, Logan, is a great guy. Battling injuries, but he was a champion in the classroom last year. It was academic All-American, first ever academic All-American for the Bethel football program, and that's just not just when you're here ever. Yeah. And so it's a significant thing, and I'm glad to see that his pleasant spirits are returning to the football field this year, because we definitely missed that. I remember his freshman year kicking a 44-yard field goal at Texas College, and it was a significant moment for him, and we hope to have that again this year when we get the wind, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
So the Threshers were up 10-0 going about 12:44 remaining in the second quarter before the first lightning delay, and then you guys just kind of went to halftime, came out, nobody scored in the third quarter. And then you scored 2 touchdowns for the rest of the game. Landon ends up scoring the last one at Cameron Harrison with a great pitch play that he took at the distance, and all he needed was that extra block. And man, what it was a block from Braden Francis to set that thing up. But you guys just finished the way that you should. In the grand scheme of things, and and then defensively, you guys shut out McPherson. They had all these fire and fireworks planned and every time for the times that they scored. And I'm just going to tell you with a straight face, that did not happen. It's just the way it was. But talk about transitioning over to your defense, and they were animals. A couple players jump out to mind the most. Brendan Sanders had a great game. I had to pay attention to the conference honors this last week. The guy who beat him had 11 tackles, but Brendan had 2 tackles for loss as a defensive back, an interception, so many breakup passes. Excellent game from him, and especially when you're looking for guys in that secondary to step up.
Yeah, but that was Brennan's clearly his best game in college. But, that's kind of what happens. Brendan, as a freshman last year, he's a role player. He would come in and play in different scenarios, and we had some personnel packages. And you got to think, he got experience every game we played. So he appeared in every game last year, at least almost every game. And honestly, against Lindsey Wilson was one of his best games he played in college. So we kind of knew this offseason that his role was going to grow, and we were excited about him. And he has some things you can't teeth. His length, he's tall, he's long. And everybody has these big, long receivers now, but he's such a great matchup to complement Trey on the other side. And so, man, so proud of him. I actually think he got that. It's okay, it worked out on that 4th down. I think he had another pick. It was an unbelievable play, but a really tough angle for the official there. But unbelievable job. Like you mentioned, definitely a candidate for Player of the Week in the conference, and likely could have gotten it if someone else hadn't had the game they had. But definitely remember that. He had a pass breakup to save a touchdown. McPherson had a couple kids we weren't even aware of, some transfers in there at receiver that just were electric. And I think, man, he did just a phenomenal job. So proud of him, and knowing the path he's taken, dealing with a little bit of an injury of camp, and just what a tough kid. Just a perfect example of our program, and that kind of paying your dues and getting experience as a freshman and a young guy. And then to watch him do that and just know the confidence he's playing with is unbelievable. And, we hear guys talk, our coaching staff loves him, defensive coaches are always raving about him. And then to see that come on the field at a more, prominent role as opposed to the little things we've seen in the past, just unbelievable, and really proud of him. And then, like you mentioned, the whole defense really just, man, they got put in some bad spots. We had some turnovers in that 3rd quarter and some didn't take advantage of some opportunities. And those guys came out there regardless of the scenario like we talked about, and man, got stops. And that's a pretty veteran group. Even though there's some new starters, all have played a lot of football. And I know it's crazy, similar to Lightning, they just handled that so well, and the moment wasn't too big for them. And I saw Ernest get in there too and make some plays, and when he was getting in, we were subbing in some personnel groups. And then some of the other guys that we've known for a long time, with the Averys, Marks, Seabolts, and Domos, things like that. So, man, love seeing that. Dakin Goodner got in late, and so really fun to see. Proud of those guys, but definitely Brennan Sanders was, for me, somebody who stood out after the game.
Absolutely. Speaking about Dakin, he had a great tackle on special teams. He and Seth Weatherby came and, the punt that set up the first touchdown really for you guys. You guys got a tackle on that one, all over on it, and it was a little bit wet after that first delay, and so that's what kind of that led up to that, so to speak. But Dagan had a great tackle and finished the game off for you guys. He had to come in on some different kind of circumstances, Coach, and I'm sure you're ready to move on past this, but a targeting call on Josh Seabolt there. But for the people that don't know, there's news on that.
Yeah. So, like you talked about, a couple of guys you mentioned, Dagan came in when Josh had a targeting call, and that's an immediate ejection, and the player safety rules, you probably see that on TV. Well, that rule is true for us too. And you mentioned obviously Seth, man, so proud of that. Man, Seth and Dagan have been program kids who, man, what an opportunity when we came out from that rain delay. Those guys had to do a deep snap and a punt. Well, our kids were out there getting work on that, and I knew, man, those guys were locked in, and for them guys to go check that to make sure that ball was secure, and then that flip and field position, I think Seth really made that play happen, and Dagan cleaned it up. But so proud of those guys. But no, Josh was ejected for targeting. There's a committee that reviews that, and so that's kind of the hard part with officiating. It is really hard to officiate live, and there's no replay. There's not sideline replay to review those immediately like in the NFL, and so. That went to review, and it was overturned. Those officials did a great job of, they evaluate every call they make. They overturned that, so he will be eligible to play this week as opposed to sitting out a full game. And so, quite honestly, Josh probably handled that the best. He came off the field and he was encouraging his teammates like we expect everybody to do. And for a guy like that that's had such a storied career, he handled it pretty well, even in the middle of frustration, as frustrated as we all were. But man, we're excited that he's going to come back, but really proud of Dagan, how he played in his, that was his most extended playing time in a really tight game like that. And he just did phenomenal. And so, great opportunity for Dagan to get reps, and Josh will be back, and we're excited for that. That's kind of our captain, I guess, whatever you want to call that, and just a guy who's been here for so long. So we're excited to have him back against Friends.
One thing that stood out to me as well, just a final note, is you sending Draven back there to punt versus we had Braden Francis there in years. That's kind of been a different change.
Yeah, well, those guys, they're both great, excellent punters. Both have some different strengths, and if you're never aware, you need to come watch Draven punt at practice. But he can kick the ball really far, and so we kind of have a plan for like field position. So for golfers out there, we know what a full swing for Braden's going to give us, the distance. We know a full swing for Draven, and so both those guys are going to punt. And Braden, I think, was utility player of the year in the conference. He does everything for us. Receiver, he's a holder. He's our extra kicker. He's our extra punter, and he's just been, a guy that has so much value to our program. But yeah, that's going to be Draven's role. We're going to have field positions where he's the punter. We've got other field positions where Braden the punter, and we're going to play those guys' strength. And quite honestly, we're very fortunate to have two what we consider to be all conference level punters, because there's some people that struggle to field one, and so. But yeah, no, we want to give Draven those opportunities to flip the field for us when we need that, and so you'll see both those guys appear on the field as punters for us.
All right, well, the Threshers win it 24-0. Didn't get any passing yards, but as we know in the flex bone, it doesn't. I mean, it's nice to have at times, but really, you guys did a good job maintaining that and winning 24-0 to set up this week's game against the Friends University Falcons. When we come back, we're going to tell you a little bit more about Friends here on the Thresher Football Show.
Thresher fans, get ready for the 2021-2022 school year by becoming a member of the Bethel Booster Club. Your membership impacts all athletic programs by paying for experiences last year, such as the Threshbees Award Show, postseason experiences and postseason tickets, the Hall of Fame banquet, enhanced live streaming equipment, windscreens at Thresher Stadium, improvements at Weedle Field and Ward Tennis Center, and new wall mats inside Thresher Gym. Be a part of Thresher Athletics history in a booster club that has grown 500% in the past 5 years, over 4 levels of membership plus a parent level. Join the Bethel College Booster Club today to help student athletes live out life-changing experiences. For more information, go to bethelks.edu/booster-club today.
Welcome back on the Thresher Football Show. Dan Page alongside Coach Terry Harrison. The Threshers 1-0 and 1-0 in the conference. Definitely mattered trying to defend their conference championship from a year ago, and this week they get the Friends University Falcons, game from last year that we all want to forget, but the biggest thing was the 34-22 victory, I believe it was what it was, and a wet, cold day and a lot of fumbles, Coach, and I know we don't like to say that kind of F word here on this program or anywhere near it, so, but you guys get a chance to, hopefully on a nicer day, match up with them again. They lose some players from last year, and they're fresh off a loss up in Salina against Kansas Wesleyan. So, Coach, what do you know about Friends going into the game?
Just that, we've been in some battles with those guys, so, it's really easy for anyone to look at scores and want to, compare, but we do know every year we've played them since 2018 has been dogfights. So, there's not been we lost to them our first season by a score or two. I don't remember the exact score, but then we beat them by tight margins the last couple of years. But every game, those guys have played extremely hard. So I don't know if it's the proximity that we have to each other or what, but they always seem to show up and play really well. And then last year, obviously, in the freezing rain and sleet and snow and wind, it was man, what a crazy game that was. But my assumption is they have a very, they'll be ready to play. They have a very good staff, and they did some really good things against us last year that we really tried to dig into to make sure that we have a good plan for that. And I know our staff has worked extremely hard, kind of scouting those guys out and putting in all the time and extra time to make sure we have a solid plan. So we're certainly excited for it. I was able to watch their game like you talked about. Actually, I was pretty close to, it's so close to Bethel, I was able to go watch that game for the first half. And quite honestly, they had some field position problems. And so I don't think the score of the Kansas Wesleyan game quite represents their talent level or what type of team they have. They just got backed up and had some really weird clock scenarios that just did not work out well for them, and some field position problems. So they're definitely a good team, and we have to play really well. And they have some players that, man, they could be all conference level players, and if we don't have a plan for that, I think they're going to win some games in this conference, and we certainly don't want to be one of those. So we've worked extremely hard as we've ever worked on an opponent, to make sure we're ready to roll for our home opener.
And if people don't remember, it was 2 years ago against the Friends Falcons in Wichita where Landon Barnes first got into, playing time with Bethel, and he scored a touchdown. Zach came and went out at halftime, and then Landon takes him down the field and gets a touchdown just like that and helped seal off the win that day. And it was a close one. And, of course, we all know how last year's game went and everything. But, that was the kind of debut of Landon Barnes. And then the next week he helped you guys win at Ottawa and got hurt in that one but put everything into it. But going back to Friends, last week they only scored one touchdown in the game, and that was a touchdown run by Lakin Cloudis. Their quarterback that they started in the game was Joshua Morris. Went 7 for 28 for 31 yards, threw 2 interceptions, got sacked a couple times. So I'm sure, if you look at things on paper, your defense is really wanting to get a piece of that as well. So just kind of looking at their offense, obviously they ran the ball, tried to be balanced last year against you guys, but are you anticipating that again?
Yeah, I think they did some really good things against us last year, and that quarterback did not play against us last year. He's a lefty, but he played a lot last year, so I don't know who knows with last year. It seems like 10 years ago now, right? But with an injury or something, he didn't play against us, but he has a lot of experience. So I believe he's listed as a freshman, but because of the COVID exception and eligibility, a lot of their guys that are listed as freshmen are truly sophomores. And so on our roster, we listed our guys based on kind of academically where they're at as opposed to eligibility where they're at. And so you see a lot of freshmen on the roster, but that's a little misleading. He did play a ton last year, even though he was listed as a freshman. And he played some really good games. His game his game last year against Sterling was probably what I consider to be his best game. But you see that version of him, he did a really good job. And so that's kind of what we're focused on, is that level of potential he has as a quarterback. Obviously they had some first game struggles, but like everybody, right? We know the biggest improvement we always make and any program makes is between week 1 and 2. And well, if that's true for us, that's true for them too. And so, I anticipate, they'll come out and last year they packed it in. Now, was it because of the rain and weather? Who knows? Did that limit what they wanted to do against us? But they really tried to run the ball. And so they did some good things. He's a pretty effective runner. Did throw a couple picks last week, but we know certainly they'll work to improve that. And so that quarterback's electric, and they have a running back, like you talked about, that did score. I think he's number 6. We're going to have to do a good job against him because, like everybody, the reality is everybody in our conference has really good teams now. And, when we have, where we're at the national level as a conference now, there's really not a week where, it's easy. Everybody's got great players. And so those two certainly stood out on film.
Yeah, and they get just one score, and Kansas Wesleyan, is a very well-equipped team. They're physical, they're big, they've got a ton of talent, and to get anybody to get them in week 1 is just a huge challenge. And Friends goes down there and just scores once in that game. Punted the ball 9 times in the game, and then did have a fumble. Looks like maybe in a punting situation that happened in that game. But defensively, the Falcons were led in tackles by Cleon Hamilton, number 13, and then J.J. Barajas and Tony Brown up in that mix for them. Defensively, what have you noticed about them? Obviously, everybody knows how to game plan against the Flexbone. Maybe not comprehensively, like from your perspective, but teams practice against the Flexbone in practice just to get in its system and get practice against and things like that. But defensively, what are some of the things that they present towards you guys?
You really love their nose guard. Their nose guard played against us last year, and he made a lot of plays, and so we focused really hard on trying to make that guy's night longer on Saturday, and so I think that's been a focus of ours. He's a really good player. I think he's number 62, and they have a linebacker. He's from Goddard originally. I remember from high school, but his name's Jagger. I can't remember his last name, but he's very fast, can run, and so we're going to have to, if we can handle those two guys, which is their nose and their middle linebacker, we feel like we're going to have a really good shot and kind of win the middle of their defense. But that's been our focus, and so like everybody, I think now when we're able to win a conference championship, I think everybody's practicing against us at least at some level year round. But it's just the fact is it's just different though. You can practice as much as you want, and you can know kind of what we do or see what we do. But it's very different when you have Keegan, Draven, Cole Herman, Junkermeyer, and Antoine, and Logan Birchnow, and Marvin. It's one thing to scout us, but it's another to have those guys coming at you full speed over and over and over again. And I think that's it's just a different speed and it's a different level of physicality than most people are used to. And so that's kind of our goal, right? We want to be not fun to play against, and our kids have embraced that. And I think now, especially with the way our B-backs ran the ball and that level of physicality and the way it meshes with Landon, and then we're so good on the perimeter with Cam, Mace, and then Tanner and Braden, and even with Matt Hernandez, who's going to get some playing time and some opportunities that he this week, and then even our young slots that we really like. It's an animal to defend, that you can't necessarily simulate the speed of that at practice, and then you certainly can't simulate our guys' will to win in the level and how hard they play for each other. And so that's kind of, everybody asks the secret to stopping the flex bone, and quite honestly there isn't one, because you can't plan for the heart and the passion our kids play with. And so that's what we hope shows on Saturday.
Obviously the goal for your offense is to maybe have a little bit more success in the passing game this week after coming out a little bit dry last week, and I'm sure that was just first game kind of deals. But matching up against their defensive backs, obviously with your formation they're going to come in a little bit tighter and things like that. But how do you feel like you match up there? Yeah,
the funny part is we obviously we feel like we throw the ball better than most flexbone teams that do this, and we have great plans and we practice it so much. And the hard part is you have to take advantage of what people give you, right? And it's like there's games where Landon's going to run for 200 yards, there's games where Chance or Cam or whoever that is. And just like there's games where we're going to go, Tanner's going to score touchdowns, or Braden or Matt or whoever that is. And so we just kind of have to take what the defense gives us. And our kids have been here so long, they understand that. While it may not be my game this week, but next week it very well could be. And so the hard part of that is if you force it, one of the beauties of how we throw the ball is if you force it, it's not as effective as when it just happens naturally based on what they're giving us. And so that's what we're excited about, excited to see what their plan is. And obviously as a coaching staff, it's our job to kind of figure that out as quick as possible, then take advantage of that. And so I know Coach Reed and Coach Kelly have worked extremely hard at that, and they take great pride in that. And our kids, to see our kids at practice and our passing game evolve is unbelievable. And the things that we're doing, I think, is as good as anyone in the country. And so, there's going to be a game that somebody decides that they're going to dare us to throw the ball, and and hopefully we can make them pay when that time comes. And that could be this week, it could not be that week. And so we'll kind of play that by ear. But I can tell you the coolest part of that is Braden's big block on the touchdown, and then Tanner was as physically dominant. I think everyone really noticed it. Man, he was physically dominant on the perimeter. And so when those guys are doing that, it's going to create touchdown passes later on. And so really excited to see how that evolves and how that changes, because you have to decide, are you going to let us run for 400 yards a game and eat up the clock and own the time of possession and then deal with our defense? That's kind of the chess game of football. And the hard part of that is we don't find out until Saturdays what that's going to look like.
Right, yeah. Tanner sometimes makes it really frustrating for defensive backs. I mean, just mentally and everything. Yeah. So a lot of people, may see a lot of extra, antics sometimes, but that's just him owning his position in some cases. So that's from my perspective, at least. So.
Well, the officials on the sideline were like, man, I wish, how are you getting that kid to block that hard? And it's like, well, we're not. He cares that much, and sure. It's like, it's one of those deals. It's like everything, toughness and physicality is a choice that you have to make. And I feel like our guys on the perimeter, from slots to receivers, they choose to do that every day. And, it's coaches ask us all the time, how do you get kids to do that? And it's like, well, we don't. We recruit kids who play with that type of passion. And so loved seeing that. And you saw how it made game-winning plays for us. And, it will pay off, because people get tired of getting blocked, and then they make a false step, and then we throw touchdown passes. And that's kind of the natural progression of what that looks like.
The Threshers getting set to take on Friends University. Bethel 1-0 and Friends 0-1 after their 65-7 loss against Kansas Wesleyan. Some other games from the conference, and what is it, week 1, because there was a week 0 there. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how you look at it. But obviously the Threshers winning 24-0, and then you had Avila was in Kansas City against Tabor, put up 65. Won 65-24 against the Blue Jays in that one. Sterling on now 2-0 on this season after winning a hard-fought game against Midland, but they in week 1 defeats St. Mary 49-10. That one was in Sterling. And then another key game that I thought I was really paying attention to this one was Southwestern and Ottawa. You kind of were thinking about, okay, is Ottawa going to get back to what they were, or is the Southwestern going to, I knew it was going to be a good game either way. And Southwestern wins that one in Winfield 41-13. You guys, I think, went up to 10th in some national polls, and I think the conference even has 3 teams in the top 25. We talked about it a little bit last week, but just what really stood out to you about the results from this last week in the conference?
Well, the best part, the first week we are the people that were able to get out of conference games in week 0, we were undefeated as a conference. And so while we want to beat everyone, it is good for our conference to get out of conference wins on the national level. It helps everyone to make the rankings to where, obviously the conference champion gets an automatic bid like we did last year in the playoffs, but there's an opportunity maybe for 2 teams to get in, right? And so that's why it's really good to have success outside of the conference, which is what our conference was able to do. Sterling getting a GPAC win was really big. So that was awesome. And then Ottawa got a win out of conference with a Sooner team in Panhandle. So that was awesome. And then obviously Washington, now conference play has started. You certainly keep an eye on it, but it is it's bizarre and it's hard to start comparing those teams because it is a game of matchups, and so you're going to have teams that match up better against others, and so sometimes it's almost you're chasing your tail if you're trying to compare, but it is good to get an indicator of kind of who's talent, where everyone's at, and so it's kind of like we talked about. I think the top 5 teams in our conference are going to be, competitive on the national level. So then it's going to come down to that week of practice when you play them, how you handle adversity that Saturday. And so it does. What's great about it is, if you can come out of our conference as a champion or a runner-up in the playoffs, you're going to have a great shot to win your first round playoff game, and you're going to have an opportunity to compete for a national championship. And so that's what's really cool about it. And like I said, we want to beat everyone, certainly we do, like all of our fans and our players want, but it is good that we had success out of the conference and really proud of our conference for doing that. And so, it's like us, we've won every out of conference game we've played thus far outside of our game last year against the national champion, Lindsey Wilson, and we played them more competitive than anyone. So everything is pointing to success for our conference, which we should all be happy about because it's a predictor potentially of playoff success for whoever comes to our conference, and it allows for potentially 1 or 2 and even an off shot at 3 teams making the playoffs so that you don't have to go undefeated to be a playoff team. Right. Because then obviously the goal, while we want to win conference championships always, the goal is to get to the playoffs, to then compete nationally. And so you just got to get in. And so these teams having success out of our conferences as good a scenario as we could have had.
Bethany had the bye week in week 1. The week 2 docket looks like this. You got a good game potentially as Avila goes down to Ottawa for a good football game. Sterling is at Kansas Wesleyan. They're going to test that 2-0 record against a really good Coyote team. And then you guys, of course, are at home against Friends. All those are 6 o'clock kicks, and then you got a couple 7 o'clock kicks as McPherson goes to Tabor. Mac trying to get a win. Tabor is 1-1 on the season. McPherson definitely, they want to get a better taste in their mouth after playing you guys on a Thursday. And then Bethany hosts Southwestern, and of course the Mound Builders definitely maybe more, thinking about winning that football game as well, going up to Lindsborg. So, it's got a good slate, and it's nice to get into the swing of things, Coach. And it can't, it's about to get really short with weeks. I know for you it's different because you got these, you have to every single day you're practicing and getting the best out of guys. Mm-hmm. That's got to be difficult to try to do and try to manage on the field and off the field stuff. But I think everybody realizes and appreciates the little things that you do within this program. So even had a little bit of fun during practice here recently with the women's soccer team. And if you haven't checked that out, you can find it on Twitter. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Mm-hmm. But the kids, just getting the guys to just buy into that, and then just trying to get this kind of addictive within the athletic department. And I think a lot of people look at the success that you've had here and they want to echo that. And obviously last year with multiple conference championships in that program, we're seeing some growth there. So. Yeah, well,
we want to be a program built on gratefulness. Like the foundation of our program is being grateful. And we preach that to our kids and they embrace that. And what we teach our kids is that man, number one, their generation is a little bit undervalued on their level of toughness and how much they are grateful. And man, they're just the level of care for they have one another. But I will tell you, we tell our kids, you can't expect the soccer team to come to your game if you don't go to their game. You can't expect the basketball team to come and be loud for you if you're not willing to do that for them. And really proud that our guys do that for teams. I know our home environments in volleyball and basketball, I think, are unmatched in the conference, having been a part of it for so long. And that's generated generally because of our football players and the type of student section they are. And so we always want to give back to those teams. And if we got to go out there and let the soccer girls beat us up on the soccer field to kind of foster a sense of chemistry, we will do that gladly, and we'll make a cool highlight video about it. And that's what we were able to do. And so excited for this Saturday. There's no limit on the stadium again, and so now we can get back to normal, and man, it can be packed again because I do think we're so grateful and thankful for the amount of support we have in this community, and so to see that it's going to be kind of like old times again this Saturday. And so we had unbelievable success, unbelievable support during the COVID stuff, but now opens back up, people are able to come to the game. I anticipate a very cool environment, especially with Wichita being so close for Friends. And so we're excited about that. And then obviously, it was kind of after the game, just a reminder, we do put-ups after the game. And so it's been 2 years since we've been able to have our family join that. But, because we're a program that's trying to build this, next generation of Christian tough leaders that are building people up and putting people up instead of putting them down. Please come watch that. If you're on here and you're a fan and a parent, you're more than welcome to join us. We introduce parents and, we welcome everyone, and you're able to be a part of those put-ups. And, hope that's just a little side into our program. People are able to do that. And so can't wait for Saturday. Can't wait for our programs to be out there. And it should be just a beautiful night and not a 7 o'clock kickoff, a 6 o'clock kickoff, which I appreciate. And so pumped for that. And, just can't wait to see everybody on Saturday.
Should be a full day, Coach. You got a little bit of soccer flavor in the morning with women's and men's, and then you guys in the evening. It's a full day at Bethel College, so we hope you can join it. If you can't, you can watch on the KCAC network. That is the new platform for all of KCAC inter-conference competition. If you have the old application on your Roku or Apple TV, something like that, you need to throw that away and get the KCAC network version. And what's great is when we get to postseason play, the conference and everybody has agreed to that, to make that free for the most part. So we're excited about that. And it's going to be a 6 o'clock kickoff. I'll be on the call here from the press box at Thresher Stadium. And if you can't make it, I'll try to make it as bearable as possible. And hopefully we walk away with a Thresher victory and Father Abraham, Coach. So I'm Dan Page. That's Coach Terry Harrison. Thanks for watching this week, and roll on.